Hi, I'm Courtney Loving, and today I'm joined with Nicole Lobo and Christopher Brown, who is the CEO of Courage to Change. And we're here today to talk about gang culture and to kind of shed a little bit of light for, hopefully for our cohorts in community counseling and school counseling on, what is gang culture, what are the special needs that these people, these children and adults are coming in with, and how can we serve those needs more specifically in our future work. So I'd like to start by introducing you a little bit. This is Christopher Brown. Can you tell us a little bit about what brings you here today? And
I'm a native of Columbus, Georgia. I am an ex-gang member. I do a lot in the community as far as working with kids. That's how Courage to Change came about. I've seen the gangs change and the gang culture in Columbus grow and fall and rise again. I'm here today to just shed some light on, for people to be able to understand that it's not just a bunch of kids getting in trouble, committing crimes. That this is actually a culture and, kids missing things in their life, which leads them to join a gang, and just to shed some light on that.
Well, as part of our research, Nicole and I, obviously, most of our knowledge of gang culture is academic, and we kind of have some different academic definitions of what gangs are. Part of what we did during our research, we spoke to a detective who is the head of the gang. Is she the head of the gang?
The gang task force.
Task force here at Columbus, and their definition is a group or association of 3 or more persons who may have a common identifying sign, symbol, or name, and who individually or collectively engage in or have engaged in criminal activity, or as a juvenile commits an act that if committed by an adult would be a criminal act.
But there are so many different definitions out there. There are definitions that are basically as easy as 3 or more people that come together to commit violent acts together, and they are already considered a gang. So what is your thought on that?
Well, that definition is pretty straightforward. Anytime you get 3 or more people together, even it may not be violent acts, but if they're just involved in criminal activity, they're dressing the same, they're throwing up the same signs, they always hang together on the same corner, that can be considered gang activity when you have 3 or more kids committing any criminal acts together. Because, you have so many variations. Like, you have gangs that, I don't know if you heard of the gang called 30 Deep. It was a gang in Atlanta, and all they did was smash and grab robberies. They would take a truck or something and smash it into a high-end department store, steal a lot of expensive clothes, and then go to the neighborhoods and sell them. So, you have gangs that commit violent acts. You have some gangs that are in drugs, some gangs that do petty crimes, but all of it is gang activity.
And I remember the Columbus Gang Task Force that the detective over there told us that gang activity mainly evolves around making money and control the drug and the weapon trafficking in town.
It grows to there. Most of our kids, you have stages in gang activity. Most of our kids start out on the stage of they see the guys in the neighborhood. You see so much of it on TV, in the videos and movies, and they start identifying, if you're from a certain neighborhood and your neighborhood is known for a specific gang, the kid will identify themselves with that gang. Then they just start hanging around. Then it grows to, doing petty crimes like maybe stealing for the gang, breaking in cars, stealing radios. And as they get older and it progresses, eventually it comes to the point where if you're an 18, 19-year-old kid and you've been hanging around the gang and growing up in this culture for years, you probably done messed up school. You're not in school. You probably have a criminal record. So now it is about how can I make a living to survive, and that's how most gang members end up in drugs, robbery, different things of that nature.
Well, and at that point in their life, they're at the stage of life where they need to start providing for possibly children at that stage.
Exactly.
Maybe a lot of the, have children and they need to make a living. It's interesting, in another article I was reading, they talked about sort of the stereotypes the the national stereotypes of gang members having lots of money, driving flashy cars, having big jewelry, and then he said that that really isn't at all what gang culture is. The gang culture is really people hustling and needing a job and needing a group, and that it's very different than what the stereotypes.
Yeah. It's only a few in the gang that you ever gonna really see make it to the point of having a lot of money. Most of your gang members at a lower level never reach that point, either from going to jail, being killed, or it's a control thing. If I control the gang and I'm the leader of the gang, I want to keep you to the point where you have a couple of dollars, but I can use you to do whatever I need you. If you have the same amount of money as I have, and I tell you to go, rob somebody or straighten somebody in a situation, you like, I got money like you, so what am I going to go rob for or do the stuff that the dirty work? So you want to keep a certain amount of gang members at a level to where you can control them. And that's where a lot of those lower level gang members don't see the big picture of what's happening to them, that they're just pawns on the board being used.
Maybe that's a good point to talk a little bit more about what does it mean for a gang member to be in a gang. I mean, what do they gain out of it, of joining a gang?
For me, for example, and a lot of kids that I talk to, joining the gang it's like you're missing something in your life. Either most of your gang members, you will find out, have family issues, they're missing parents don't have time to, you have a lot of good parents that don't have time to be at home to raise their children because they're constantly trying to work to pay bills. So now you have the neighborhood, you have the TV, different things that's raising our kids, and the parents not able to be there to show them the way. So a lot of those kids are missing that bond. They're looking for something to be a part of and that love. And this even funny, one of the top 5 things why kids join gangs is discipline. That's in the top 5.
Discipline.
They want discipline. You have a lot of kids, they understand, if you have a parent that says, if you do this one more time, I'm going to spank you. If you do this one more time, I'm going to take your TV or your phone. But then they don't do it. Or if they take it for a week, they give it back in 3 days. Where the gang, it has rules, it has structure, and they understand that. And they know if I step outside of these rules, out these boundaries, I'm going to have some discipline done. And the gang, most times, they going to discipline you when you mess up. Even if it comes to life or death, a lot of kids know that and understand that.
Something you said struck me as very interesting about a lot of these kids come from very good parents. You know,
yes.
That the parents are there, but they're out working and they don't have the time or whatever to devote to their children at home. So, some of what I've read is it kind of indicated that this is not a socioeconomic issue. That the kids that are going into gangs are coming from parents who are working, who are making a living. It's not just a lower socioeconomic situation. In terms of Columbus, I mean, what have you found?
It's all across Columbus. You do have a lot more of your activity as far as fighting and things coming from more of the known areas in Columbus, like, what they consider South Side, East Side, downtown. But it's gang members. This is so funny. I work for New Horizons, one of the drug court programs here in Columbus. And I had I think he's about 13, 14-year-old white kid in the 6th or 7th grade, and he stays like in North Columbus. And he was talking to me, and I was like, I saw a pitchfork on the stop sign taking him home, and I asked him, like, y'all had gangs up here? And he said, yeah, we do it up here. And I asked him, I said, so you're in the gang? And he started, yeah, I'm in folks and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, it just goes to show me that it's not just in the projects or in the South Side.
Yeah.
It's all across Columbus. And you have some kids that come from affluent areas pay $5,000 to $10,000 just to join the gang.
Oh, there's an entry. See, so that's so interesting, whether it's in Columbus or nationwide. The people joining gangs are not just people from poverty.
Exactly.
I have read that a lot in articles that, I mean, there are just as many reasons to join a gang out there as there are people walking the streets. I mean, that you can say that generally a lot of people look for belonging, a sense of belonging, and like you said before, structure and discipline. But in reality, it's really just very individual why people join gangs.
Well, and to circle back, one of my favorite articles, I'll see if I can find the name of it. They talked a lot about, in terms of why they join. It says, although gangs can be viewed as functional because individuals feel that membership in such groups protects them from harm, perceptions do not always equal reality. According to a growing body of literature, gang members are at an increased risk of victimization because of their gang membership. And yet they think they're joining the group to get protection. But what the author of this was saying, which is Decker and Van Winkle, I'll check, but they it's this sort of odd paradigm that shows that they feel less safe when in the unknown. And even though they know that the gang activity can create further victimization, that culture sort of builds them up, builds their self-esteem, and kind of enculturates them to this world of violence. And they feel safer, even though the reality is they're victimized more once they're in a gang than when they're out.
But they know what to expect.
They know what to expect, so that idea of safety, just it's more of an emotional safety that they're going for rather than a realistic safety.
That's a good point.
Because the gang presents it to you as, we're your family now. And it gets to the point that I can remember when I was dedicated to the gang, it's like my mom could tell me something, and she could tell me to be in the house at 9. But if the gang told me to be out at 9:30 to meet them, it was like my allegiance was to the gang. Yes, I wanted to respect my mother, but at that time, I had moved so far from family because we were dealing with so many issues that it was like, okay, the gang is my family, and I'm going to love my real family, but I'm going to have my allegiance to my gang, even if it costs my mom fussing at me or put me on punishment. My allegiance is to the gang, because they presented it as, you hear a lot of words like, we love you, we got love for you, we your fam, things like that. And it gives you that feeling like somebody has my back regardless. And when you have a parent that you're trying to do better, but you mess up, and you have a parent that kind of puts you down when you mess up and just gets on you, and if they don't praise you a lot when you do good, the gang is going to be there regardless if you do good or bad. That's how they put it out there. But at the end of the day, it's still the gang thinks about themselves. Because when you get caught with the drugs, you find yourself, the gang leave you out there. When you go shoot somebody, nobody's going to come down there and say, oh, I gave him the gun and told him to go do that. The gang kind of bags up, you on your own. And that's when you start realizing that your family is going to be there and the gang going to leave you stranded. But some people don't get to that point, and some people, it takes a long time for them to realize that this is a false, perception that the gang is putting out there about this family bond.
So do you think that this is like a conscious recruiting techniques of gang members to connect to use on an emotional level and provide them with the needs that they have?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if I'm an OG, Set King, I mean, those are like people at the top of the echelon. Or if I'm like the big dope dealer, and I know you're struggling. Your mom may be on drugs, or you may just come from a low income, and I know you're struggling. I buy you a pair of shoes. I help buy you clothes to go to school with, and then eventually it's like, I'm doing all this for you. I need you to do something for me. And that kid says, you know what, he's been taking care of me, or she's been taking care of me. So they build that allegiance like that. Or like if you have a problem with somebody messing with you, oh, don't worry about it, we'll be at the school tomorrow to take care of it. They come up there, jump on the kid that's bothering you, you automatically feel an allegiance to them. Now that I got you in my game. Guess what? If I have a problem across town, I'm not going to have to handle it. I'm going to give you the gun and tell you to go do it. And that's how they get our kids.
You know, listening to you talk, excuse me, I almost have an emotional, I have such an emotional reaction. I'm sitting here listening to you thinking, well, how am I supposed to, as a counselor, how do I help a child that has, in some ways it seems, obviously if they haven't gotten to that point of joining a gang, I can come up with ideas and ways in my mind, but I think if they're already in a gang, and these ties and these allegiances are as strong as you're talking about, what do I need to know as a counselor? I mean, I don't know, in your experience.
I'm gonna use a term that good guy Mark Fonda used. Actually hired me when I changed my life around. Term that he used is called putting tools in their toolbox. Okay. They're living in this atmosphere, this environment that they have to deal with every day. So you can't be judgmental with the kid in the beginning anyway. You have to understand that this is their culture, where they come from, or how their life is going right now. So you have to be understanding, and you have to realize that if you have a kid for 30 minutes, 10 minutes, or an hour a day, let them know that you care about them. Give them ideas, make suggestions, put stuff in their toolbox. So eventually, when they go back to their environment, they're used to people in their environment telling them, when you get mad, ball your fists up. When you get mad, they look in the toolbox, they pull out the gun, or they do whatever. If you keep putting that stuff in their toolbox, eventually they're going to get mad. And when they reach in their toolbox, oh, Miss Loving told me I have to have more patience. Oh, wait a minute, I'm trying to find this gun. Miss Loving told me I need to think about my future. And they start grabbing other stuff, and guess what? Eventually they turn around and they walk off and they say, I have somebody telling me that I can be somebody and I can do things different. And you just be there to support them. That's the best way to get those.
So encouragement is really...
Yeah, that's the best way. Because if you start saying, why are you doing this? Or you don't need to be in the gang. You don't understand how I had to go home every day. I had a kid here at a local middle school, had 2 colors in his pocket. And he was like, Mr. Brown, I got to walk home every day. And he was like, when I go through this neighborhood, I had to hang this rag out. When I get to the other side of town, I put this rag out. But I really don't like them gang boys, but I got to get home every day. And that's how he make it and survive. So, I mean, you have kids do some things to survive. I mean, if you live in a neighborhood and the kid tell you, if you don't join us, we going to jump on you. We done grew up together. We all Crips or we all Bloods. If you don't get down with us, you got to come home over here every day. And we're going to pick on you. We're going to beat you up. We're going to bully you. So, I mean, at that point, what choice does the kid have if the parent's not going to get up and just move and take them somewhere else? So we have to find ways to get them involved. And, I teach kids not to lie, but sometimes you got to teach kids to lie. And what I mean by that, I tell kids, if the gang asking you to come outside, tell them, man, I don't know, my probation officer might come out here anytime. He told me if he come here and I ain't in the house, he going to lock me up. Kid might not even be on probation. But you have to think outside the box and give them ideas and suggestions that may help them out. And that's what I do sometimes.
I read in a lot of articles that the first thing you have to do when you are dealing with a gang member is to differentiate between a gang member that is like in a multi-generational gang, where the whole family is involved in gangs, or somebody that is just getting ready to join or joined on his own because of the sense of belonging and whatever reasons he or she has. Yeah. Is that a big difference between those two?
I think it's a little harder to get a kid out of a gang, or to get a hold of them when they're born in the gang. When you look at they're a 3rd, 4th, 5th generation gang member, you talking about grandmama, granddaddy. Yeah. It's one gang, the Bloods. When a young lady is pregnant and she's a member of the Bloods, or her boyfriend's a member of the Blood, and you ask her what she's having, she's not going to say a boy or a girl. She's going to tell you, I'm having a blood drop. And that's basically saying, my baby is going to be born of blood. And that's what she's having. So when you look at it from that way, it's a lot harder to get those kids, because it's like, this all they know. But a kid who joins at a later age in life, most of those kids are going through some things, and it's like they turn to the game looking for what they're missing.
And then you just have to substitute whatever they are looking for, and like you said, provide them with tools in their toolbox to use.
Well, I know that we don't have a lot more time. You've got you're working, going to school. Are you here in school?
Yes, ma'am.
What are you studying?
Sociology.
Excellent.
I want to be a clinical social worker.
That's great. Well, can you tell us a little bit before we go about you and what your work here in town now, and how some of our cohorts can tap into the resources that are available here in Columbus if they're working with somebody that's in a gang.
Okay. Well, being that I was in a gang for a long time, got trapped up in the gang culture, the drug culture, and just I've seen people standing next to me get shot and killed, and been involved in a lot of things that I decided to take my life and help others not go through, or teach them that you may be going through things, but the gang is not going to help you with what you're looking for, because every day you're in the gang and you start committing crimes, getting records, finding yourself with enemies that you don't even know you have, because once you join a gang, you get the same problems I have. So I try to work with kids now and get them involved with other activities, as far as whether it's sports, helping with the academics, get them involved. I know we were talking about maybe getting together on a theater, ideal, and teaching them how to act, role play. We need to get them involved with things, and also it's not just about helping the kid, it's helping the whole family, and seeing how can we help that family meet their needs. Because if you have a parent that's struggling, especially so many single parents that these kids, single parent households that these kids come from, we have to find a way, can we get the parents some more education to help them make some more money? What kind of job or assistance do they need with the child? And just the community need to start getting involved and helping these families out, and just seeing what we can do to get the kids involved. And I think we'll see a lot of change. I mean, some kids you're not going to reach. I mean, that's reality of life. But the ones we can reach, we need to get involved as a community. And especially in Columbus, can I say this before we go? I don't like people saying we don't have a gang issue, or we don't have gangs and they copycats. It's been murders, it's been robberies. You go to a lot of outings, clubs, you see these kids throwing up gang signs, fighting, pulling out guns. Don't wait till it's an issue to where you have kids coming in killing whole families. You have multiple killings before we say we don't have a gang problem. We need to recognize it now and change it right now.
Yeah.
Listening to you describing the programs that you envision for Columbus area, it sounds a lot like the Homeboy Industries that they have out in California.
Okay.
And this was founded, I want to say, in the 1988 by a priest, actually. And it started as a job training program where they try to provide opportunities for hard-to-place individuals to find some jobs. Would that be something that would be in the future of Columbus?
Have you ever seen that, Homeboy Industries?
I have. I haven't, because the gang culture is so different in California.
Sure. Like
we travel, me and Mr. Fahmy, we travel and we speak a lot about gangs, but we're focused mostly on the southeast. Now Mr. Fahmy, he goes out to Alaska and he goes a lot of other places. He's real good, but we focus a lot on the southeast because the gang culture here is a lot different than when you go to California or when you go to Chicago. So it's just a whole, you wouldn't believe how different it is. I mean, it's just a big different environment. But I would love to be involved in Columbus and the South, putting together, some programs, organizations that will give some grants and hopefully help a lot of these kids. Because especially here, it's not a lot to get them involved with, and a lot of the parents not going to take the time to get them involved with. So we need some organizations that can get those kids put them in these programs, because a lot of them just can't afford it. You know, if you got a program, kid costs you $165 to play football,
They're not going.
and the parent can't pay for it, how they gonna play?
Right.
So,
Well, I know we're out of time, but you've been very inspirational to me. I know that all of our classmates watching today are going to be, I don't know, just gives people a lot of ideas and thoughts about how to help and maybe how to do some larger community outreach programs that are going to really help some of these kids. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in today and showing us a little bit of the reality of gangs and just help us to understand what it really means to be in a gang culture and be involved and not just the academic part of what we can read about.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Well, this is our presentation on gang culture. We're looking forward to having more of a discussion and talking about your thoughts about what Mr. Brown had to say today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.